Okay. Stop. Whoever you are and whatever you're doing, and whichever part of the world that you're from, stop for a few minutes. You might be living an ecstatic, happy life, or you might be totally miserable and frustrated. It doesn't matter. Just stop for a few minutes and step back from yourself. Have you ever been in a movie theater watching this intriguing film, and you've got a couple of people sitting in the back row who are constantly chattering about the movie, and they're going on and on, analyzing the movie, critiquing the movie, and some of the things they're saying actually make sense. They're being reasonable. They're actually doing a pretty good job analyzing the movie, but you see, you're unable to enjoy the movie because of this constant chatter going on in the background. It's distracting. This is exactly what thought does to you in your life, and the exact thing that thought does to people all around the world. Nobody escapes the curse of thought. There's constant mental chatter and noise going on in your head, and your thoughts are either telling you what life should be or what life is. And because of this constant mental chatter, you slowly become distanced from the most important thing in your existence, which is reality. And you see, thoughts are responsible for creating your personality. Without the process of thinking, you wouldn't have an individual personality. But then the personality ends up being a burden, and actually, your personality becomes a primary responsibility for you being distanced from reality. And we can see this through an experiment. So let's conduct an experiment together. You could also try this on a daily basis, but before we go ahead, you got to leave all your baggage at the door. Everything you collected from science, from philosophy, religion, from all the stuff that you learned in school, everything that you collected in college. If you're a PhD, the research papers you've read, Wikipedia, leave all of the baggage at the door, and let's use direct experience as a test of reality. You see, in the first place, all of those concepts from those subjects, all of those mathematical truths, all of them have validity because they were validated by your experience. So it's your direct experience that gives reality to anything at all. So let's stick to your experience, okay? All you've got to do is step back and watch your thoughts and feelings for about 10 minutes. You probably heard about this from hundreds of people, but that's because it's so effective. Just step back and watch the thoughts and feelings that arise within yourself. Don't label these thoughts. Throw away all your prejudices. Don't slap any labels on a thought and a feeling. Don't categorize them. Don't put them into boxes. Don't split them. Nothing. Let every thought and every feeling, even those which you would normally consider a dark thought or a negative feeling, let it all arise in its totality. Let it vibrate for a little while and then let it descend and go away. Don't touch anything. Don't follow any thought. Just be the space in which these thoughts and feelings arise. Okay? And you can probably start off by practicing this 10 minutes a day. The first thing that you notice is there's a vast space that's present, that's underlying your thoughts and feelings. And you can actually be the space. In reality, you are the space, which you will realize as you continue to practice this. But this gives you an immense sense of freedom because suddenly there's a lot of space that's created around your thoughts and feelings. You were feeling very congested before because the only thing that you were aware of was the constant chatter in your head, but now there's space around that chatter. The chatter hasn't stopped, but there's so much space that the chatter becomes insignificant. You can use the chatter whenever it seems reasonable, or you can just leave it apart. You're not enslaved to it, which was your experience prior to the practice. And the same thing with feelings. You've given so much of space that the feelings are allowed to play their role and they disappear. They don't make you feel congested, and they don't seem problematic anymore. Now, as you continue to practice, your identity suddenly feels expanded. You don't feel like this tiny little me with a job and a name and an appearance, who's afraid of his fate, who feels responsible all the time. All of that slowly starts to seem insignificant. You actually you notice that the only reason you thought you were all of those things was because of you being limiting your awareness to these objective things like thoughts and feelings, and you know your objective experience. But now that there's the space, your personality starts to be insignificant, and you suddenly feel a bit more powerful, a bit more flexible, and you see that you can actually react to life's moments better. You're more spontaneous, and this is extremely important. Um, Wait, hold on. It's minty with a dash of lemon. Yeah, it's really good after a long day in the office. Um, yeah. So you notice that the space which you become aware of is not dependent on your body, it's not dependent on your thoughts and your feelings. And you will start to investigate deeper into this as you see that when you go to sleep, basically what disappears is your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. Now, in your waking state, your entire experience comprises of thoughts, feelings, uh, and perception, right? But what happens is initially your perception just comprises of your five senses. You have this seamless experience of the five senses where you have your sight, smell, touch, hearing, and so on. What happens is thought arises and then begins to classify your perception. It looks at this part of perception, the body. The body is just a collection of senses from the perspective of awareness, but thought arises and classifies it and says, okay, this part of the perception is the body, that part of the perception is table, this part is cloud and sky, and so on. So you see, the world as we know it is created by thought. Prior to thought, there is no world, there's no body, there's no objects, there's no things. There's just seamless perception. But thought chops up the experience and creates the world of objects, right? And then you go to sleep, and then you go into the dream state where thoughts are a little more vague. So even the world that you experience becomes a little bit more vague. And finally, all the images of the dream state, your mind is also withdrawn. And what remains is that space. It's that space which you are, except that now the space has got no objects in it. That's why when you awaken again in the morning, thought comes up and says, okay, when I was asleep, there was nothing. But that nothingness is from the perspective of thought, you see. It doesn't, what was truly there in deep sleep was you, your natural self, just this pure space with no objects present in it. I love the analogy that's used by one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Rupert Spira. He uses the analogy of the screen and the images appearing on it. So he says that the screen is awareness, okay, or consciousness, and the images that appear on the screen is the world of form, okay, the body and everything that you experience. And then when you go to sleep, what happens is the images, it's like turning the movie off, but it doesn't mean that now there's nothing. What's left is the screen, right, which is consciousness or your awareness, but the images have disappeared. Now, why is it important to understand your true nature or what you really are, this space? Is because, you see, it's okay to continue playing in the world of form, to live in the world of objects, go on chasing everything. But many people, at least in today's world, are finding life to lack any substance, any real meaning. Because the way we've been conditioned and brought up, it seems like most of the things that people above the age of 20 do is constantly chase something so that they can accumulate and add to themselves. They either want to keep getting a good job, accumulate wealth, or have great experiences, travel the world, do something to enhance themselves. So there's a constant urge to enhance oneself. And how do you enhance oneself? By chasing some form of objective experience. It can even be something like chasing a grand spiritual experience. The great word enlightenment. Everybody chasing enlightenment, they don't even know what it is. But in reality, what enlightenment is in the minds of most people is just a subtle object. It's equivalent to chasing some form of wealth. You're just looking for higher wealth. But it becomes a tiring process, and you want to go back and understand why you do this. It's because we've been conditioned to do it. At some point in your life, you were probably told that in order to be a big man, a great man, or someone useful to society, here are the things you need to do. This is the kind of life you need to live. These are the kind of thoughts you need to have. These are the kind of feelings you should have. This is the way you should behave with people. But when you take your attention away from this conditioning into awareness, you see that your conditioning has no substance. Its entire substance is drawn from the society around you. By itself, it's just one way to look at life, one way to live life. And the sad thing here is, none of us have been given a chance to go out there and experience life freshly for what it is. From day one, we were constantly told the way things are. Nobody has gone out there into the wilderness, the raw wilderness, and experienced life for what it is by itself. And we can still do this as grown-ups. We have to do is defocus our attention from the conditioning, which is our thoughts. Our conditioning is so deep that it's in our cells. It's all the way rooted in our DNA. So just defocus from your feelings. Your feelings are also, they also arise from your conditioning. So many of the feelings that you have, you think you're responsible for your thoughts and feelings, but when you step back and look from the perspective of pure awareness, you see that your thoughts and feelings arise themselves. You really are not responsible for them. You do not choose your thoughts and feelings, and that's an illusion. And don't take my word for it. Check it out in your own experience. Observe your thoughts and feelings, and you'll see that you don't really think your thoughts and feel your feelings. They arise in you. But once as you continue this practice of defocusing your attention and getting back to your natural state of just being pure awareness itself, the inevitable effect of that is love, because you see that this whole universe arises from this space, right? Everything is this space, is a manifestation that arises from this one space, this one seamless awareness, one seamless consciousness. And essentially speaking, fundamentally speaking, I am not different from you. I'm not different from any creature, not even from a mosquito. To be honest, we do not exist as separate organisms. We don't have a separate existence. That's just an illusion created by thought. The whole universe is just one seamless cosmos existing as one grand organism. Okay? And it just helps you feel a bit more lighter about life, to be a little bit more playful. And now everything has value. You stop valuing only those things that your mind tells you to value. Whether it's an ashtray or a cup of tea or a grain of sand on the beach or a lone pebble, some corner of a dirty beach, you can see the divinity in everything. And it really juices up life. You're not seeking anything more. You're not chasing all the time. You don't live like a beggar. You truly start to live like you live like a prince. And you can be a prince who doesn't have a penny in his pocket, but you don't need anything. Now the whole the earth is your bed, the sky is your roof, and you can walk around the earth, and you can see that the true purpose of life is enjoyment. And even the most dire situations, difficult circumstances, you can see the harmony in everything, because now you're looking with a more holistic mind. You're not split up and cut up. Your eyes have been opened, and you see that there's not a single atom in the universe. There's not a grain of sand that's in the wrong place. Everything is as it should be. And I think that's a pretty important realization to come to. But yes, nobody stops you from continuing to play with your conditioning and programming. That's the beauty of being human, is that you have a choice. So, well, think about it, and don't believe in anything I've said. I don't want to be another perpetrator of concepts. There's enough concepts in the world, but instead just cut, scrape, and melt what I've told you. And unless it agrees with your experience, don't believe in it. Just throw it away. Anything that has value, anything things should have value to you only if they agree with your experience. Otherwise, they're worthless. So enjoy yourself.